Welcome back to the summit. I have the pleasure now of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Michael Crow. Dr. Michael M. Crow is an educator, knowledge, enterprise architect, science and technology policy scholar, and higher education leader. He became the 16th president of Arizona State University in July 2002 and has spearheaded ASU's rapid and groundbreaking transformative evolution into one of America's best public metropolitan research universities. As a model, New American University, ASU simultaneously demonstrates comprehensive excellence, inclusivity, representative of the ethnic and socioeconomic diversity of the US, and consequential societal impact. Lauded as the #1 most innovative school in the nation by US News and World Report, ASU is a student-centric, technology-enabled knowledge enterprise focused on complex global challenges related to sustainability, economic competitiveness, social embeddedness, entrepreneurship, and global engagement. Under Dr. Crow's leadership, ASU has established 25 new transdisciplinary schools. Dr. Crow's model has achieved record-breaking levels of traditional online and international student enrollment, freshman quality and retention, and nearly five-fold growth in research expenditures. The inaugural recipient of the American Council on Education Award for Institutional Transformation and one of Times Magazine's 10 Best College Presidents, Dr. Crow previously served as Executive Vice Provost and Professor of Science and Technology Policy at Columbia University. He has advised the U.S. Departments of State, Commerce, and Energy, as well as defense and intelligence agencies, and serves as chairman of InQtel. He is a former member of the National Academy Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship and has advised several nation states on matters of knowledge enterprise development. An elected fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science and the National Academy of Public Administration, University Vice Chairman of the U.S. Council on Competitiveness, and a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He is the author of books and articles analyzing knowledge enterprises, science and technology policy, and the design of higher education institutions and systems. He's authored a number of books in this area and earned his PhD in public administration from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. So actually, I know Michael from my days at Iowa State University. I actually worked for him. We won't say how many years ago, Michael, but many years ago. So it's my pleasure to welcome him here today to our summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's really great to be here. I mean, I think Arizona and New Mexico are, the 47th and 48th state added to the union in terms of the contiguous 48. And we are and have a chance to be notably different in every possible way. And so I was excited to be able to be invited to this meeting, excited to see you again, Lisa, and have a chance to talk about this. And so, my talk, I'll try to make as interactive as possible. But the question is, what's the role of public universities in statewide economic development? And the answer, very simple answer, is the role is central. It's essential. It's in fact so important that we need to figure out how to do it. And I think the principal reasons are twofold. One, our country, which has been a fantastic example of economic democracy moving forward in the last 250 years, both of which are challenging. What I mean by that is that nothing's free, everything requires hard work, and every generation has to make its contribution greater than the contribution of the generation before it. And what that means then in 2020 is that The rise of global competitors is significant. The universities in Singapore, the universities in Korea, the integration of the universities in South Korea with the companies, with the chaebols, with the other things that are going on. The rise of the university sector in China, the role of the emergence of remade institutions in Europe. All of these things. The world is growing, $100 trillion economy, striving, moving forward, driving things forward, increasingly knowledge driven, increasingly high speed, and so forth and so on. And so the rise of global competition should be enough to say to the universities, well, it's time for us in our states to also rise up and to help our states to be more economically competitive. And then related to that, and New Mexico and Arizona both suffer from this, we're not as competitive as we should be. We're not as competitive as we were. We're very powerful and we're very successful net, but it's very uneven across the United States. So we have both New Mexico and Arizona are well below the per capita GDP. Both New Mexico and Arizona are fantastic places to be. I've been here for 18 years and I love New Mexico also. But we're not as competitive as we could be. And then we're not as competitive as we could be nationally around the entire economy. We haven't had a string of multiple 5-year plus rates of GDP growth for decades. We haven't had multiple years of 4% GDP growth, but twice in the last 40 years. We seem to be satisfied with mediocre high school graduation rates, mediocre college graduation rates, mediocre growth rates in STEM education and STEM outcomes. While in other competitors, you see the rise of entire classes of scientists and engineers and entire industries out of nothing. And so to the question, what's the role of the public university in statewide economic development? Central. It's a central role. And the reasons are very, very important. Let me, without, trying to make it a bad day in the middle of a bad week, and that is this notion of the fact that the country now has grown to 330 million people. 110 million, 1/3 of those people, have never seen better indicators. They are more educated, they are wealthier, their lifespan is expanding, their children are more successful, their lifespan is actually soon going to exceed the mid 80s, upper 80s. The bottom 110 million people in the economy, there are no positive indicators. None. Lifespans are going down. Educational attainment is going down. Income is going down. That doesn't work in an economic democracy. That can't work. And so this thing about economic development is so central to the survival and the success of our democracy, and the notion of self-made people and the notion of driving people forward, that we absolutely have to find a way to make this work. Now, what about the universities? Why is it not working? Why have these great research universities in different regions of the country not been more powerful as tools of driving forward economic development? And I have 10 reasons, 10 limits. And some of you that are at the universities won't like any of these things, I'm sorry to tell you, but just bear with me, just try to stomach my list here, my list of the 10 design inadequacies, the 10 design limits to universities that we're going to have to find a way to get around if in fact we want universities to be more powerful as statewide economic development engines. One is they're overly faculty centric. The universities do not and should not exist for the sake of the faculty. They should exist for the sake of the communities that they serve and the students that come there. The faculty are the means, they're not the end. Now, I'm a faculty member. I've grown up as a faculty member. I'm an academic. I believe that faculty configurations are one of the greatest manifestations of human creative structure that people have ever put together, but the universities can't be faculty centric. If they become faculty centric, they are so removed from the notion of purpose of the institution that they no longer even understand whether or not the economy is moving forward or not. Second, institutions like universities are inherently unbelievably bureaucratic, and they are very slow to alter their path. Universities need to be quick, they need to be agile, they need to be adaptable, they need to be able to adjust while holding true to their core values. It's also the case that they need to not be all the same thing. So every university in New Mexico and every university in Arizona should be anything but the same. I think you have more of this in New Mexico than maybe we do in Arizona, but nonetheless, it's really, really important. So second, they're too slow to alter their path and they need to pick up their speed. Their clock speed is too slow. Third, they're unscalable. So the society and the economy are scaling. That is, we need to get more people educated in more subjects, more people educated in STEM, more people STEM literate, more people engineering aware. But how do you do that? How do you make universities scalable? Because you're not going to go out and build 20 new universities in New Mexico. And so their lack of scalability is going to dramatically impact negatively our ability to be more powerful relative to economic development on a statewide basis. So that's the third design limit. Fourth, they are, I don't know how to really put this, but they're disconnected from the speed of change. Climate change is occurring at a faster rate of speed than most universities could alter the design of their sociology department. The economic competitiveness changes that are occurring around the world right now and the rise of scientific prowess and knowledge-driven enterprises are moving faster than American universities can typically alter their structure or change their structure or adapt their structure. So they're disconnected from actual speed. Universities are moving more slowly than everything else. Obviously, we have social changes that are moving very rapidly. We have political complexities that are moving very rapidly. We have economic changes that are moving rapidly, globalization that's moving rapidly, and universities are disconnected from that. That was number 4. Number 5, this is probably true everywhere, and it's really sad that all the universities or most of the universities, we gave up on this a long time ago. We no longer live by what we think other people think about us because we really don't care. And that's kind of an attitude in Arizona, and I think it should be an attitude in New Mexico. But the way for universities to move forward is to jump on the bandwagon to see how many people you can not admit to your university, exclusion, and then use exclusion as your measure of success. Our university is better than all the other universities because we don't admit half the people that apply, or we don't admit 80% of the people that apply. Now, this is not generally true in Arizona or New Mexico, which are both egalitarian, but all the universities in New Mexico and all the universities in Arizona are thought less of and are ranked lower because they're in a system of a culture of universities in which exclusion is a measure of success. Well, we should say, go to hell to all those people, and then evolve our own universities that are measured by what we think is important, and we should not buy into this. But the problem with this is that this then becomes a part of academic culture. Number 6, and I think that this is important, we are inefficient, and pridefully so inefficient. We're so inefficient that the majority of kids that go to college don't graduate in the United States. More than half of all the students that have ever gone to college in the United States have no degree. More than half the people that have taken a Pell Grant since 1980, when the program started, roughly, almost approaching $1 trillion of expenditures, no degree, no certificate, nothing. That's not an efficient expenditure. That's not an effective outcome of the institution. But somehow we think that other people are responsible for that. So the 6th is that we're overly inefficient. 7th, we are, for the most part, and this is really, really weird, but either non-technological or anti-technological when it comes to learning systems. So at ASU, we've partnered with almost 300 learning technology-oriented companies. We've built tremendous ways to advance the university's learning impact. We have 150,000 degree-seeking students right now at ASU, half of whom are on campus with us full-time, half of whom are online with us full-time. And then we have hundreds of thousands of other learners, but the only way we could ever do that was to alter our view of technology. And so when we talk to other universities and we talk about technology, they look like us, not even like we're from Mars or Venus. They think we're from Titan, some far distant moon in the outer reaches of the solar system, and that we're not even humans, because we talk about technology as a critical asset to the projection of the power and the capability and the impact of the university. So that's the 7th design limit. The 8th design limit that has to be addressed to really take on this notion of building universities that can be of greater economic impact in states. We have extreme difficulty leveraging the institution internally or externally. What I mean by leveraging is that it's hard for us to get the mathematicians to work with the chemists, to work with the sociologists, to work with this group or this group or this group. That is to leverage the combined assets of the university into something more than the sum of its individual parts. And so universities end up looking like and feeling like kind of market bazaars, like the Turkish market in Istanbul, where you're walking by different booths. Each booth is an individual faculty member. They don't really care who the other booth owners are. They just want to sell you what they have. So the university has set up the market for each individual person to advance their individual way of doing things. And it's very difficult to leverage this, and even more difficult to leverage between and among universities. There's no reason, for instance, other than stupidity, that the universities in Arizona and New Mexico are not formed into an alliance, where if we have something that's of value to the New Mexico Tech, and New Mexico Tech has something of value to us, that we're not married together and linked together. That is, so we're under leveraged, both internally and externally. The 9th point, and these are all addressable and doable. The 9th point is that universities are, for whatever reason, mostly led by, bureaucrats. And so they're risk averse. They don't take risks. They don't take any risks. So a risk would be building a new kind of university. A risk would be taking universities in New Mexico and universities in Texas and Arizona and forming alliances together. Risks would be doing all kinds of things that we generally don't do. And so we generally don't take risks. Number 10, and the last one is, I'm not really sure why this is the case, because everybody at universities is generally well educated and generally, certainly leaders of universities, globally aware and even global travelers, but we have a lack of global awareness. So we think the competition is over in Austin, Texas, or we think the competition is in Salt Lake City or Denver or Boulder. And yeah, that might be some of the competition, but the real competition is, Biopolis in Singapore. The real competition is the emergence of new kinds of research organizations around the world. And so we have a lack of global awareness. We don't really know what the nature of the competition is. We're too local. So what are the 10? So faculty-centric, slow to alter paths, unscalable. We don't know how to, we're disconnected from the speed of change of both the economy and more broadly global affairs. We're driven by exclusion as a measure of success, or at least impacted by that. We're inefficient and ineffective in our products. We are not advanced technological integrators from a learning systems perspective, and we have difficulty leveraging both internally and externally. We're risk averse, and we have a lack of global awareness. So other than that, things are really good. And so what that means then is, and I hope that I see there's, according to this chart here in front of me, there's 243 people, maybe 250 people, including others, listening to this. And hopefully, there's some of you are still listening. If we really want to change economic outcomes, if we really want to enhance economic competitiveness, what we need are universities that are really capable of change. You can change leaders every week. It will not make any difference unless you change the design of the institutions. The leadership of the institution, unless it is capable of changing the design of the institution, will not alter the outcome of the institution, because the outcome of the institution is the best that the present design can produce. I have a really hard time convincing people of this. So if you have too few startups that you think are seeding the New Mexican economy coming out of the universities, it's not because the faculty are lazy. It's not because the faculty are stupid. It's not because the faculty are not creative. It's because the design of the institution can't do any more than what it's presently doing. And one has to focus on the design. So what does that mean? So I wrote down, if you want to really have an increased role in economic development outcomes, if you want to have an increased statewide economic development impact, from the universities themselves. You have to change everything. So I'm not speaking theoretically here. I've been the leader of this institution for 18 years. I was the deputy provost of Columbia University for 11 or 12 years. Lisa and I used to work when I was back at Iowa State before that, where we were involved in all kinds of technology ventures and centers and projects and everything imaginable. And so I got about 40 years of battle scars about what it takes to make these things happen. So the first thing that you have to have is that every single university has to have a unique charter. If you run universities like generic public schools, they will fail in all of the things you want them to do and you want them to achieve. And what I mean by a unique charter is, why do we exist? So the University of Arizona down the road in Tucson is a super land grant. Engineering, agriculture, medicine, veterinary medicine has all those programs. It's a super land grant. That is its charter. It serves as a land grant university. We are a university built on the idea of inclusion and built on community success and built on scalability. And so we have a unique charter that we've been able to evolve. Second, you need to be able to have aspirations unique to each university. So we have 8 design aspirations, and one of them is that the university itself will be entrepreneurial, that we will act and behave and work in entrepreneurial ways, that we will drive to stimulate innovation, and we will make no apologies for it, either to our faculty, who we will try to empower, or to anyone else. A design aspiration of this university, given its unique charter, is that we will drive economic success, social success, cultural success, and we will take responsibility for that in our state, and that within our design aspirations, we have made innovation one of these design aspirations, and we hold ourselves accountable. So, for instance, here in Metro Phoenix, we have 75,000 students, 30,000 employees, 4 academic campuses, and we are either building or have built 8 innovation campuses in which we're clustering different clusters of companies, different clusters of alliances, different ways that we work together, different ways that we think together. So we have one in Scottsdale. That's the city of Scottsdale is our partner. $100 million investment with the city of Scottsdale. We have $100 million investment in the city of Mesa, $300 million investment in the city of Phoenix. We have partnerships with cities, partnerships with others, hundreds of companies that are clustering with us, want to be near us, or that we're spinning out. And so this all comes from this notion of rethinking the institution. The third is one has to take on this notion of intellectual design. So now I'm on change everything, change the charter, change the aspirations, become unique, but intellectual design. So in our case, you know, it's the funniest thing in the world. Every university thinks it needs to be the same thing. So University of Arizona, University of New Mexico, University of Colorado, University of Utah, they all have to have the same departments. Why? Whoever said that? Why don't they have unique intellectual design? So we've blown up 80 academic units here. Departments, schools, and colleges, gone. Completely reconstructed in new intellectual configurations that we think are cool. And we means the faculty think are cool. So we have a school for Earth and space exploration that's just unbelievable what it's taken off and doing. We eliminated all 11 of our engineering departments. They were too rigid, too structured. We created 5 grand challenge engineering schools built around dreams of the future. And I'll come back to engineering in a second. And then we built a new polytechnic school and built a polytechnic campus, a whole other way to teach engineering. So there's the new ways to teach engineering theory and computation, and old ways to teach engineering, which is build stuff, make it work. We have both. We've built both of these. And so intellectual design is really, really important. We built a school of sustainability, which operates under the assumption that you have to build a sustainable world. And to do that, you have to have science and technology moving in that direction. And your purpose is to build that world, like a medical school. You need to change everything in terms of the business acumen. And so universities have to be able to operate as something other than a government agency. The more you operate as a government agency, the less impact you'll have economically, the less impact you'll have in economic development, the less And that doesn't mean I know the labs are on here, the Air Force lab and the 2 DOE labs. Those are different. Those are different structures. Those are entities created by the government and wholly funded by the government to perform a specific knowledge creation task. Universities have got to be able to operate in markets against other institutions, against the private institutions, against other public institutions. And so what we've done in this particular case is we've evolved what we call the enterprise model. And the enterprise model means that we have about $4 billion of revenue this year, about 300 million of which is coming from the state of Arizona, and 3.7 billion is coming from the entrepreneurial activities of our staff and faculty. That then has changed the way we think, the way we operate, the way we negotiate with the state, the way we interact with the state. And so let me just take that from the top, change everything. Unique charter, unique aspirations of design for your specific institution, a focus on intellectual design, and a focus on business acumen. And business acumen is not just the enterprise model, but it's like, how do you do a deal? And so how do you make deals happen? Deals for technology in, technology out, technology partnerships, corporate relationships, corporate partnerships, all these things. And so let me just then say a little bit about what some of our outcomes have been at ASU. So we've done all these things: unique charter, unique aspirations, unique intellectual design, and greatly enhancing our business acumen. And we've tried to take on the 10 design limits that I talked about relative to the way that we've structured the institution. So we're producing 4 times the number of graduates that we were producing when I took office. 4 times as many. So 32,000 people will graduate from this institution this year. We've doubled the 4-year graduation rate. We've taken our freshman retention rate to just under 90%, while at the same time diversifying our student body to be completely representative of the state's diversity, both socioeconomic diversity and ethnic diversity, including Native American diversity. We have students from over 200 Native American communities, Native American tribes attending ASU. There's only 23 tribes in Arizona. And so we found a way to greatly enhance our ability to produce enhanced workers at scale from the diversity of our population. Job 1, produce fantastic graduates through the institutions that represent the totality of society. Number 2, just as an example. So it's obviously important to be competitive against global competitors: Korea, China, Singapore, Japan, Europe, and others. We need more STEM graduates. And it doesn't mean STEM idiots, trained only in STEM and they don't know anything else, but broadly educated people who are STEM capable. So we set out 10 years ago to look very seriously at our engineering school. And what we found was that our design greatly limited our engineering school. So we had 6,000 students in engineering. We had a 68% freshman retention rate. The engineering school was mostly male, mostly white and Asian. Not anymore. 10 years later, the engineering school is 25,000 students, 18,000 on campus, 7,000 online in Star Trek level, literally Vulcan science camp level online engineering degrees. We have a 90% freshman retention rate, and the engineering school is representative of the diversity of the state. We never had anything like that before, ever. And so you do that by taking on this task of rethinking things. So that meant rethinking things relative to STEM, which meant changing the academic calendar, creating new ways that we organized our semesters, enabling people to double and triple major across their various programs, enhancing learning with learning technologies and so forth and so on. So what that means then relative to economic development, and economic development, by the way, is not only dependent upon STEM. It turns out the hottest thing in the world right now is an English or a philosophy major who can code. And because they can think, and they can think broadly, and they have broad awareness and broad insights and perspectives on all kinds of complicated things. But having said that, we have increased the number of STEM majors from our on-campus and online degrees to 60,000 STEM majors. So, we have we have 6,000 biology majors now. We used to have 1,400. And we have 6,000 biology majors in one of the most advanced research-intensive learning environments imaginable, And these biology majors are from everywhere, every family background imaginable. I'm just using that as an example. Another outcome that we've taken on is to expand the ability to project the quality of our faculty. So I think we have about 5,600 faculty members, about 2,100 of whom are tenure or tenure track faculty members. We have taken our faculty and empowered them by building alliances with dozens and dozens and dozens of educational technology companies. That then has gone into a unit that we call Ed Plus at ASU. That unit at ASU, Ed Plus, has a staff of 300 or 400 people. That unit then goes out to all of our faculty and says, you know, we don't make anybody do anything online, but we now have almost 300 degrees online, thousands of courses online, and this year we'll have 85,000 students pursuing degrees online, including many in New Mexico. And so what we're doing there is we're creating state-of-the-art degrees with our faculty. We're not using anybody else's faculty. We don't have any of the cheap Charlie made-up fake courses of some of the for-profit universities that are out there that are just purveying something. We're not really clear what it is. But our faculty stand behind their courses. We've built these degree programs and these courses. And then this has allowed us, and this goes to economic development, Lisa, this goes to working with companies, that has allowed us to build relationships with companies. And so we've been attracting companies because of our learning assets. We've been partnering with companies in Arizona and around the country because of our ability to project our learning assets. Adidas is a company that we have a learning asset relationship with that we now also have a research relationship with. Starbucks is a company where we're educating 16,000 of their employees and have graduated 5,000 of their employees from our degree programs, but we now have a tech center for Starbucks here on campus. We have research activities with Starbucks and so forth and so on. I won't walk you through all of these. Mayo Clinic built a medical school campus here in Arizona, partnering with us. They're partnering with us in research. They're partnering with us in learning assets. They're partnering with us in educational program delivery, all these things. And so all of that has come as a result of our ability to project the university's capability. That same capability has meant then that we started the spring semester here yesterday. We have the largest enrollment for a spring semester that we've ever had. The largest summer school enrollment was the summer of 2020. Largest number of graduates in the history of the institution is 2020. And so it doesn't mean that the pandemic doesn't exist in Arizona. It's very, very active here in every possible way, but it means that our technology assets have given us many ways to move the institution forward. On technology transfer, the more traditional aspects of technology transfer, we've learned to work in, I think, 3 ways that are significant. One, we have spun off in the last few years about 170 investor-backed companies, new companies in water technology, materials technology, nano manufacturing, companies in water systems, algae-based energy systems, everything that you can possibly imagine. And so we figured out how to do that and to do that well and to patent and to move forward. And we created a not-for-profit business that does that for us at arm's length. And then that entity then also helps us to build more partnerships and more research alliances with others. We just entered into a fantastic new technology development and business alliance with a company called Dreamscape Immersive out of Los Angeles, which is a company that is very, very advanced in entertainment-oriented VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality. We're now their partner through both a business alliance, a technology transfer agreement, and a joint business development plan. We're their partner in opening up these VR, AR technologies into advanced learning activities. A second thing that we do is that we use the university as a partner for people to develop their technologies. So we have 60 companies that are working their technology through ASU, and we take an equity stake in all of these companies. And we then build a cluster around the university in those kinds of technologies that are important to us. And so that's what a business would do. You'd find partners to work with, you'd work with them, you'd co-develop the technologies, you'd use the technology as a part of your outcome, you'd take a piece of the company in case it was successful, and then you'd use the technology going forward in your own enterprise. Well, we've got more than 60 of those that are here with us right now. And then I think the other thing that we're doing is that we're learning how to partner. So This technology that we're talking on right now is Zoom technology. So Zoom is moving 500 people here to our campus to work with us in a joint tech center, which is advantageous to them and advantageous to us because it allows us and them to evolve this technology together, because we're such a large user of Zoom. We're pushing them relative to the uses of Zoom. We've opened up new markets relative to how Zoom thinks. In fact, related to that, we will be offering by the fall of 21, we hope, entire degrees that are based on nothing but Zoom. We're calling these ASU Sync degrees. So by the fall of 21, we'll have ASU full immersion on campus degrees. We'll have ASU digital immersion online degrees that are asynchronous. And then we're going to have degree programs that are ASU Sync. They will be Zoom empowered, full immersion, but digitally empowered full immersion. And so that's how we're working on the technology side. And then on the business development side, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is a part of an effort on the United States to return supply chain for critical assets like microchips to the US. So they're going to be building a $15 billion plant here in Phoenix. They're going to be bringing much of their supply chain here. There's going to be new research activities that some of the folks at the DOE labs, I'm sure, are aware of, that are going to be associated with this return of nationally important defense-related technologies. And so, as I'm sure is the case in New Mexico, we're involved in every single aspect of that. The recruitment of the company, the building of the workforce plan, the projection of our technological assets and our learning assets. So both our faculty assets from a technology perspective, but also our learning assets. And so we now have the capability to project our learning assets anywhere, any language, any culture, any scale, any subject. So just think about that. Once you can do that, we now have a way to intertwine and weave ourselves together. So another company that just picked 4 technology sites to build in the United States is the Indian-based software company, Infosys. So they're building a tech center in West Lafayette, Indiana. They're building a tech center in Raleigh, North Carolina. And they're building a tech center right a few hundred meters behind me, right here in Tempe, Arizona. And they're doing that because of the workforce that we can produce. But what we're really looking for there is ultimately, what are all the things that we can do with them? So right now we have students in India on Infosys campuses attending ASU and attending Infosys courses who can't get to the United States because of the pandemic. And so we found a way to create a global learning environment while also working with them on technology development ventures and technology development outcomes. And so we've got all these things that are happening at the same time. So change everything, change the purpose of each individual institution, or at least define it in a clear way that's different, set intellectual aspirations for the institution, including innovation, develop a new intellectual design for each university, build business acumen within each university, and you'll start to see all kinds of outcomes. Now, let me talk a little bit about the pandemic. So, we have the view that the pandemic is a long-term thing. The virus is never going away. The pandemic will go away, but the virus will never go away. And so we have basically been operating under that assumption. And so we have tested 600,000 people with our own PCR, a saliva-based test that we invented in the spring of last year and got deployed by July. We knew we couldn't get testing from the market that we needed, so our Biodesign Institute was able to build it and invent it. We're working on new testing systems. We have 250 research groups working on COVID-related activities. But what we found in all of this is a moment for unbelievable innovation. Innovation in our faculty, creativity in our faculty. Our faculty is fantastic. This group of human beings that make up our faculty, I mean, they are so capable in their own field, but so willing and able to do new things that it's created for us. And I think, Lisa, for everybody, it means then that the university itself is a driver of change. And so we're trying to be helpful to K-12 in every possible way. We've built learning assets for K-12. We've built learning assets for individuals in their homes with their families if they can't send their kid to school or the schools are closed. We're building new testing technology. We're building new tools. We're going to have a test out in March or April, which will be a small microfluidic device about the size of this thermometer. You'll spit in this thing. The microfluidic device will separate the RNA particles and tell you whether or not you have COVID. It'll tell your cell phone, give you a green light, and off you go if you don't have COVID, all at home. And so we're very excited about these kinds of things, and all for a couple bucks. And so we're very excited about being able to be a frontline innovator, not just in COVID defense, but in adaptation to the pandemic itself. And so what we found in all of this is that we're not even the same institution that we were. So our first case of COVID was 1 year ago within our community. It was in January of 2020. We're not even the same institution that we were 1 year ago. We have capabilities that we didn't have. We made investments in partnerships that we didn't have. We've continued to evolve the institution in ways that we didn't think were possible. We've empowered our faculty in ways that they've just taken off like rocket ships. I mean, it's just really quite remarkable. We're launching 50 new degrees that have been designed since COVID started. 50 new degrees. And so what we find in this new modality for us is that we're just able to be really, really innovative. Now back to your central question, then I'll shut up and open it up for questions and stuff. And that is, what is the role of the public university in statewide economic development? Central. If public universities are not involved and they're not engaged and they're not able to do the right thing, there isn't going to be any economic development. I mean, there might be economic development, but it won't be competitive on a global scale, because global scale economic development is going to require not just technology, but enhancements in creativity and arts and humanities and music and language and all the things that the universities represent and all that those things empower in the broader society itself. And so here we are, state 47, New Mexico, state 48, Arizona. We're down here in the corner. We don't really think about Southern California as also being in the corner. We're down here in the corner. And it's really time for us to work together, take the natural beauty that we have of the place that we live, and really show that you can drive economic development forward in new ways with unique institutions, unique public institutions. And we're the weirdos that are still standing. They haven't killed us off yet. And so we're still over here, still advancing and still moving forward. So with Lisa, I don't know if this is what you wanted me to talk about, but this is what I talked about. So I'll stop there and see if there's comments or questions. Thank you.
Well, this has just been wonderful, Michael. Thank you so much. You have stimulated a lot of discussion on the chat and a lot of questions. So we'd like to pick your brain a little bit and ask you a few questions related to your talk. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. There's so many good ones here. Some of them you have answered. What resources do you need to achieve these new designs, and how did that come about?
So the most important resource that's needed is the alteration of the mindset of the university. So most universities are internally focused, squabbling, arguing, debating. They don't believe that their purpose is the success of all aspects of the community. Now they do believe that their purpose is the success of their students, but that's like a step removed from the success of the community. So the second that a university says, well, we're responsible for, I'll pick Arizona. So when I first got here, I had all these fights with our education college. I said, the kids aren't graduating from high school. That's your fault. They say, no, that's not our fault. That's the stupid legislature's fault. I said, well, how could it be their fault? They don't produce teachers. Most of them didn't go to college. How could it be their fault? Well, they just don't get it. I said, well, who cares whether or not they get it? It's our fault. We have to now start taking responsibility for outcomes. So we restructured our College of Education into a teacher's college. We began altering we started tracking the performance of our teachers in the workforce. We began thinking differently. So as soon as we were able to start thinking differently, like we were responsible. So we were responsible for economic outcomes, social outcomes, competitiveness outcomes. And so if the economy in Arizona took an extraordinary hit, which it did in the Great Recession, well, part of that's on us. And that means then we have to adjust how we think. Now, what I'm talking to you about is really foreign to a lot of universities, because most universities just organize themselves to be like some other university down the highway, or some other university, you know, across the state lines. And so what the key step to this is taking responsibility for the success of New Mexico. Totally, not just the production of a graduate or the production of a paper or a patent or something, but the actual success of New Mexico itself.
Great answer. And I think that's actually what we're trying to work on today, is bringing all of the leaders from government, industry, and academia together. What is the relationship between ASU and the University of Arizona?
Well, so we have 3 public universities in Arizona, which should tell you something, with 7.5 million people, and growing rapidly. This county is Maricopa County is more than 4.5 million people now, where we're located. And so the relationship is that we are sisters with differentiated missions that report to the same board, and we work with them in a partnership relationship, and we compete against them. You know, for everything, you know, and that's good. And so the relationship is different than it used to be. It used to be basically a strictly bureaucratic relationship. Bureaucratic in that it was a power relationship with certain kinds of outcomes from the legislature and certain kinds of outcomes from our board. And it's not that kind of relationship anymore. And so we have a technical relationship with them. We have an intellectual relationship with them. We are less and less, the political thing's not completely gone, but almost completely gone. And you know, that, you know, not all of that has been pleasant, but all of it has been constructive, if you know what I mean. Now, sometimes families have to go through arguments, and then they improve once they do a little bit more of analysis and so forth. So we have a strong relationship with them, but we are you know, our own independent institutions.
One of the planners of this summit is Mitzi Montoya, the dean of our Anderson Business School, who I know you know well. She says hello.
If she's on there, hello.
She is on, and she's been one of our moderators as well.
Mitzi, we haven't slept since you left, and you know, we're still evolving.
Well, the R gain here at UNM. Her question is to have you talk a little bit about enabling or disabling state policies that can help align university and state interests to contribute to competitive regional economies.
Well, so what we've been able to do, and part of our deal with the state has been, so you're not going to fund us, okay, then allow us to then be more entrepreneurial. So we now refer to ourselves as a public enterprise university. And it doesn't mean that there aren't any rules or structures. There are, but it means there aren't very many. And so the state gives us a line item appropriation with very few instructions. It hasn't gone up for many, many years. It hasn't gone up for 12 years. It's only gone down for 12 years. And the state is still involved in oversight and so forth. So what we really have asked the board to do is to help set our objectives. And what we've asked the legislature to do is to invest in students, which they're having a hard time doing, and then let us run the university. We'll pay for the university. We'll fund the university. You fund the students to help defray some of their costs to come to the university. We'll keep the cost as low as possible, which we do, but please help the students. And so that's sort of where we are. And you know, I think that the state has been very generous in their taking a hands-off approach to the university. They've allowed us to do many, many things. We still have arguments. We still have some occasional politicians that don't like us or whatever, but for the most part, it's been a very, very effective relationship. In fact, it was funny when Governor Scott Walker up in Wisconsin back at the time of the Great Recession, he tried to negotiate with the University of Wisconsin system a series of freedoms for less funding. Well, we already had all those freedoms and we didn't have any funding anyway. And so it turns out that the freedoms have been very, very powerful to us. It doesn't mean that our students don't need funding and don't need support, but it does mean that we found a way to run and advance the universities without heavy support from the state.
Another question is and you've touched on this already, but if you could amplify, what has COVID taught universities? Will it force them to change forever?
Well, COVID, like I said, it's not going away. The pandemic will go away, but the virus will not go away. And then it's not the last virus; it's the latest virus. There'll be other viruses, and so I hope what it's taught everybody is that we're about as prepared for the modern, complex global world as the universities were in 1500. And so we need to take the last 500 years and actually modernize the institutions, change it up. And so from our perspective, we now realize that we have to be able to operate through anything in any modality. And then the other thing that we've learned is that, with this sync mode that we have right now and with our online technology, well, who has to be left out? Well, nobody. Who could finish their degree if they didn't finish? Everybody. Who should finish high school? Everyone. And so what we realize is that the delimiting factor of the universities, this notion of success through exclusion and lots of college dropouts. And, the majority of people that attend college in the US are dropouts. I mean, what a disgusting outcome of trillions of dollars of investment. And so what we've learned is that all of that was unnecessary. All we needed to do was to modernize, and hopefully COVID has shocked us into modernization if we're not hiding from COVID, hoping that it will go away. And then we'll come out into the sunlight when it goes away, because that's not going to happen either.
On a different topic, how is ASU addressing climate action and sustainability issues?
We were ranked last year by Times Higher Education as one of the 10 leading institutions in the world, the only American institution in terms of attainment of SDG goals. We built our new Global Futures Laboratory, hired Peter Schlosser, who was the deputy director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, brought Peter over, named him vice president of ASU for Global Futures. And I know you've got some people from Sandia and Los Alamos on here, two national institutions with storied histories of importance in America, and then for decades have been defending America in ways in which have kept us safe, and thankfully. But neither of those organizations can take on this notion of the totality of understanding how to best manage our relationship between the species and the planet, between humans and the planet. So we've built the Global Futures Laboratory, which now has 650 faculty, thousands of students, a new college of global futures with a school of sustainability, a school for complexity, and a school for the future of innovation in society, technology labs, science labs, behavioral labs, social sciences, humanities, everything all coming together. So the way that we're approaching this is from that perspective. And then I think the other thing that I would add is, I think we're about 70% solar during the day now for a university of 100,000 people and 26 million square feet of space. We'll be totally renewable at some point relative to all of the operations of the institution except transportation, and then we're taking that on next. So we're also looking very much at that. And we're also deploying. We have a new carbon capture technology. We have these mechanical trees that have been licensed that could at scale remove substantial percentages of the carbon footprint from the atmosphere. So we've got a lot of this stuff going on. And so we see this as central. And we think the universities in New Mexico, which have lots of great programs and lots of great things going on, should also see it as central, because there are advantages to those places that are blessed with wide open spaces and blessed with large amounts of photons from the local star we have here, because those photons with the water that we have and the carbon dioxide that we have, you have those three things together, you can do almost anything, including the building of whole new industries built around nothing but photons. And so we're looking at things from that perspective also.
Wonderful. Different question, different topic. How have you changed the reward structure within ASU to decrease the silos?
We have large percentages of our faculty that are jointly appointed between programs. We pay market grade salaries. We allow units to generate revenue now from their online activities. Some individual units now have millions of dollars of revenue above their base budgets just from their online activities. We've built an incentive-oriented budget activity. We don't have any charges for space, so all space is a common good. not assigned to colleges or departments, which then allows free flow of people and ideas. And we've tried to loosen up the fluidity with which people move back and forth. We have so instructed our promotion and tenure processes to be able to promote people who are parts of transdisciplinary units and transdisciplinary teams and post-disciplinary teams and interdisciplinary teams. So we've been doing all of that. Far from perfect, but lots of progress.
Back to the community for a moment. A question, in light of your competitive stature, what has this meant for the communities of Tucson and Flagstaff?
Well, I don't know exactly what the questioner means, but Flagstaff and Tucson are, very different than Metro Phoenix. Both are very successful, very nice places. I think that what it's done more than anything is it has enhanced opportunities for Arizona as a state. So we don't really view ourselves as a Phoenix-centric thing. We view ourselves as first as an American public university driving our country's success, and then as a statewide institution. So we don't see regionality. Neither does the U of A, and neither does NAU. I mean, NAU, I think, Northern Arizona, I think they have 15 or 20 degree programs with facilities in this county, in Maricopa County. The U of A has programs and facilities everywhere across the entire state. So we try not to do a lot of, unnecessary wastage, where we're trying to do the same thing. And we occasionally bark at each other, when it looks like somebody's maybe, eating our dog food. But generally that's not a problem. And so the three universities don't view themselves as regional institutions. They view themselves as statewide institutions.
And how about ASU's relationship to the community colleges in Phoenix in driving change, creating a thriving workforce and a thriving economy?
Well, that's a complex relationship. The community colleges here have virtually no support from the state at all. They are very large in the case of Maricopa with 10 colleges within the system, more than 200,000 students. And so we have worked to make certain that movement from the community college to the university to specific degree programs is seamless. And so we now are producing, I think, something on the order of 10 times the number of graduates that started at community colleges. When I got here, the provost at the time would whisper to me, "You don't want to talk to the community colleges, that will denigrate our reputation." I said, "Well, we don't have much of a reputation anyway, so I don't know what you're really talking about. And whatever reputation we should have should be a reputation that is built around success with community colleges." So we've spent a lot of time building our articulation agreements now across hundreds of degree programs, where you automatically move into the degree program of choice from the community college. And we do that by joint advising, advanced advising systems, clear articulation pathways, clear agreements, all these kinds of things. And so that's been greatly enhanced. Now, as to the relationship between the community colleges and the universities, they could always be better because there's lots of arguing about different kinds of things. And we're working toward that to the best that we can.
Maybe I'll ask you one more question and then give you an opportunity to make some final remarks if you like. Do you identify great success programs at ASU and try to replicate them, or do you try to learn what their magic is?
You broke up there just for a second. Great success programs, is that what you said?
Successful programs, yes.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we try to do is we try to build a fluid, evolving structure that allows us to, we've taken our research funding, we'll be right at 700 million a year of research this year without a medical school. And at least I think you know what that means. That means there's a lot going on. And it was about 100 million when I started here. And so, I think that what we have done is we've created new ways to connect and new ways to link and new ways to be fluid. And so the success is not so much driven by a program per se, it's driven by the environment. Programs come, programs go, programs do this, they morph this way, they morph that way. We're not so much interested in that. Like we don't really you know, we don't really, like, our buildings don't say engineering on the outside of the building, and that's the engineering department in there, even though that may be engineers in there and they may occupy the entire building. We're trying to build a fluid, dynamic, evolving place. And I think that what we try to replicate is that environment. So in parts of the university where maybe they're not as open to working with others, we try to seed fund to working with others. In parts of the university where they're not linked to business, so supply chain in our business school is a huge thing that now we're linking and connecting and, you know, trying to make happen in lots of ways, and that will attract companies and link with companies and so forth and so on. So then we try to seed this along. So that's basically the approach that we take.
Well, do you have any final thoughts for us? You gave a very, very inspirational talk and give you a chance to wrap up.
I mean, I think the only thing I would say is, I mean, and I mean this in all seriousness. So we have all these dances with other universities, and so we do 5 deals to 10 deals or more for every deal we do with another university, because universities don't do deals. They all want to solve everything themselves. So I'm just like, that's just weird. Like, you know, we built some stuff that's changed math for us. So we've got 80% mastery of freshman math now, and we used to have less than 50% mastery of freshman math. And they involve adaptive learning platforms and digital tutors and intelligent tutors and all kinds of other things. And so we'll say to another university, well, let's work on that together. And they'll say, oh no, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to work on that. We got that. We got that. You don't have anything that we don't have. And I'm like, I don't know if we have anything you don't have, but what do you have that we could use? And so the point is that we should be working together on research projects. We should be working together on major things. Perhaps New Mexico and Arizona should come together and say, maybe we're not satisfied that we just have Sandia and Los Alamos lab. And maybe we'd like to have the global lab on something, related to new energy systems. And we bring in all the assets that we have, or maybe the geniuses up at the Santa Fe Institute, linked in with this or linked in with that. And so we're trying to work with those guys. But I mean, the point of all this is that we all just live inside. It's like we're living in like Hansel and Gretel woods in northern Germany in 1422, and no one's going to work together. We're just all going to try to fix it all ourselves. And so we're spread out across a very large region here in Arizona and New Mexico. And what would be great is if we could find ways to come together, to take our critical assets and come together and make some stuff happen. Or we're going to continue to wonder, what is that new technology that I heard that some other place in some other country developed, and now they've got this and that, and we're wondering what went on. And who knows, we might end up with people all mad at everybody around the country and all kinds of anger, or we could end up with social disruptions. I mean, who knows what could happen? And I'm being more than facetious here on purpose, because we got to figure this out. We got to figure out how to drive our society and our economy forward. And it's going to take something other than us just working by ourselves in little isolated camps.
I think I can speak for the group here that we would be very excited about a New Mexico-Arizona partnership. And we definitely want to follow up on all of these ideas with you.
Yeah, we're ready to do that. And so we're ready to make things happen and see what we can get going. And nice to see everybody. And just let me know.
Thank you so much. It was really a wonderful speech.